Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams. I'm getting very close. Yeah, I've been praying to the sky. I need some steady hope. If you had some guidance, would you let me know? Any doubts or something that you gotta go and get over? Yeah, get over. Yeah, here we go. Nah, I'd never think, never see the day.
You are listening to the Mind Growth Mission Podcast with David Schweit.
This is the Mind Growth Mission Podcast. I'm your host, David Schweit. I have a special guest with me today. He's a husband, a dog dad, an athlete, but most importantly, an entrepreneur and my former mentor in the mortgage world, Clay Boroughs, man. What's up, bud?
Hey, good to see you, man. It's been a while. Yeah. Been a while since we were in the mortgage game together.
I'm telling you, bro.
Hey, that was a wild time.
You've done a lot in these last couple of years too, man.
You too, obviously. You know, both working on a new journey, and you know, it's no easy feat. So I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, man. Yep. And I really wanted to sit down with you today because I know you have a lot to offer, being my mentor at one point. And just getting to know you personally, knowing how you are with athletics and sports and your competitive drive and just how you are with people, man. That's the big thing. Mm-hmm. I noticed right away you're one of those dudes that attracts people to you just naturally. It just naturally flows. Yeah. And there's secrets to that. Like a lot of people just have that, but they've had to work on themselves a lot. They have to really know who they are. Mm-hmm. I think you do a good job of that, man. But tell me about like the young Clay, who you are, where you're from, your background.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. You know, and when we got linked up, it's obviously years after I had a lot of experience coming into the corporate world. And, you know, when me and you linked up in our journey, it was you were trying something new and I was kind of the older head that had been there for a while. But the journey has been crazy up until that point. You know, went to high school in Ashburn, North Carolina, graduated, went up to Appalachian State for school and college. After graduating at school, I went back home for the summer doing job interviews, trying to figure out what I was going to do after college, and ended up doing a couple of interviews for logistics and mortgage. Didn't even know what a mortgage was. Just, didn't even know how to spell it.
Did you know what logistics was?
Not really. I just knew that the freight needed to make it from X to Y to Z. You know? Right. So, those couple of jobs, I had interviews. Mortgage was the only one that was actually full commission after 6 months. And just took a gamble on myself, kind of like, what we're doing now. And it worked out. Got a lot of good experience, met a lot of great people, met some of my work mentors there at Wyndham, people that taught me anything from leadership to personal development to sales, all that good stuff in between. And, like you were just saying, it is a learned quality to be a leader, I think. Some people have it a little bit more natural, but you can definitely sharpen the saw and get better at being a leader, month in and month out. And as you get older, you get a little bit more personally aware too of your strengths, so you can analyze it and pay more attention to it.
Yeah, man. I think it's putting yourself out of your comfort zone. Yeah. Because the things that come to you easily, I mean, they'll always be there, right? It's like, what can you do to stretch yourself? And we'll get to that part of the journey for you, but I'm sure there were some things at your earlier age we can discuss too, not just the business world. But on a previous episode, I was talking about some of the stuff you mentioned and what the mortgage world can do for you, how it can help you develop and grow, the great connections you make through it. Yep. I do think it's a great career, and it really tests you in many ways, man. But I think, your athletic background, your competitive drive, a lot of that leads to it. But what else made you a good fit for that career path, and what was it from maybe an earlier age or your time at App State that really helped you hone in on some of those skills?
I think it was having a good example growing up too. Your mom, and I had a great mom and dad. I know you did too. So you have a great example from day one of what hard work looks like, and what the goal is to be financially free eventually and be able to control your time. And once you figure out something that you're skilled at and can monetize it, you can kind of take it from there. But the whole competitive thing, I was one of 4 boys, so I had 3 brothers to compete against growing up constantly. And
I've heard y'all talk some junk to each other before. It's pretty hilarious, man.
It's nonstop. It all starts at the top with Dad, though. You know, it's trickle down.
Yeah.
So you know, still doing all that, still competing with those guys, and then you know, obviously that translated into the real estate world because it's a competitive industry, and so been fortunate that you know I've made some good decisions, met some really great people along the way, and I'm a big proponent of, you know, pushing to the next level and keep getting better.
Yeah. If you weren't around North Carolina or Charlotte, do you think you still would have ended up in mortgage?
Probably not, man.
Right.
Charlotte is, you know, one of the biggest banking hubs in the southeast to eastern, you know, region.
Right.
And so, you know, I think naturally those jobs were available. And when I was coming out of school, so I took it. And, you know, I was fortunate that it worked out the way it did. But no, if I would have graduated in, you know, Florida or somewhere else that, you know, maybe didn't have the financial technology industry, I probably would end up doing something else. But,
Right.
you know, whatever that would have been, I would try to be the best at it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I know a lot of people that went to App State and everybody's doing different things.
Yeah.
And a lot of people tend to stick to that mountainous region or maybe more of a country lifestyle or whatnot. Do you think that's in your roots? Because I know you're by the beach now.
Yeah. You just
big
like
boy,
talking
but-
about my accent.
Exactly. I wanted to get to that for sure. Bro.
Yeah. So that's the old Randolph County accent right there.
There it is.
But no, I do love being at the beach now. I lived in the mountains for a few years, lived in Asheboro growing up, and now I'm down in Wilmington, and that's where my home is, running the show as far as the mortgage brokerage. And, you know, I think that's a great area.
Yeah, man. And I think when I met you, when you only had your place in Charlotte, you're like, I'm going to have a beach house one day. And that day came a lot quicker than you probably anticipated, or definitely what I anticipated, whatever. But like, it goes to show if you have a dream or a goal, you can make it happen. So tell me about some of the things that the mortgage world did for you, some of the lessons you learned, and some of the things you got out of it that to this day stick with you and help make you who you are.
That's a great question. And I would say that it's been a long journey. I've learned a ton along the way.
The main point I want to drive home is some of the lessons you learned through the mortgage world.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of them from the beginning. What were the lessons? And, you know, I learned so much in terms of what the industry was and what the financial products were. And, you know, you go into leadership and you learn how to manage people. And managing people is totally different than managing, you know, your day to day. So, and you know that firsthand. So, you know, it's there's been a lot of life lessons that come with, you know, going through the come up of becoming a mortgage broker and being in that kind of industry. But it all kind of relates to the network effect and doing the right thing. If you help enough people get what they want, you're never going to have a problem getting what you want.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of how I've always looked at it. As long as I work hard and I did everything the right way, that, you know, on the back end it would work out. So, you know, fortunately I got that drilled into me early, and I have able to, you know, use it to plan out goals and like that, what you're saying, and accomplish them.
For sure. And you mentioned some great leaders, and I think I just posted about that, and you guys probably won't see this until a month after we're speaking now, but I just posted about leaders and the influence and the impact they have. And a leader can take many forms. It doesn't have to be super significant where they're overbearing in your life or where they're always around. It could be that one moment, that one thing. And I had you as a mentor for just a short while, but you really helped stretch me in that short span and helped me learn something that was totally new to me. Like you said, it was a new industry for me. And you pretty much threw me to the wolves, but was there when I needed any help. And you helped me identify what was actually a better question to ask you to gain that knowledge as well, instead of just maybe hit you up about every little thing, right? You got to challenge yourself to grow. But who are some of those leaders that brought that getting out of your comfort zone, stretching you like making you a different Clay, so to speak?
I would be remiss to say my mom and my dad taught me a lot of life lessons early about hard work and, budgeting and saving and, some of the financial lessons. And then in the early part of my career, I definitely took some leadership skills from previous managers like Matthew Drexler, Donnie Kirby, Matt Brown. Learned a lot from those guys. And then sales, I knew, Drew Fisher, Dennis McCoy, a bunch of guys that given me a lot of info along the way that, I tried to retain as good as possible and then pass along to the next set of people, i.e. being you. But it is an experience thing that whenever you're doing that kind of job, you kind of learn by fire. Every situation's different. So, but yeah, man, every person that's helped me along the way, I always try to make sure that I reach out to them and tell them how I appreciate it and I'm thankful for them, basically.
Absolutely. So it comes back around to being thankful and give that gratitude. And you wouldn't be there without some of these people. And those names that you mentioned aren't just names either. Those are some big time players in the industry that really kind of set the tone of how it's done and what hard work looks like and how it pays off, right? So I really love that, man, that you brought them up. And parents, I mean, we're lucky enough to have great parents that instilled that in us. Not everybody's as fortunate, so they have to find other ways to develop that themselves. So I am very lucky there. You said you're lucky there, but what else did maybe athletics? Because what I noticed in sales, a lot of people coming from athletic backgrounds, they really have just like a competitive drive or edge to them that makes them unique, and the relatability too, right, with people. Is there anything you're doing now or did then that you think helps maybe hone in on some of those people skills, interpersonal skills, or skills that carried over into the workplace just from athletics?
I would say absolutely. I think being in sports and athletics growing up definitely gave me an edge in the business world, knowing how to push your limits and when you can give up or shouldn't give up. Also being comfortable in the uncomfortable. So, if you get comfortable being uncomfortable, there's really no situation that, you're going to hold yourself back in. So I think athletics teaches you that, because if you're playing a team sport or you're in an individual sport like a wrestler or something, you're in uncomfortable situations sometimes. So you have to be comfortable getting out of them or knowing how to handle them. So I think that's a big lesson that a lot of people, don't think about is getting comfortable in the uncomfortable area, whether it's sports or work.
Yeah. I remember times growing up where I was trying to find a direction and like what sport to play, because my parents weren't big into sports, man. They actually came from homes that were, alcoholic fathers, not, mainly poverty stricken. So sports was definitely not in the picture, even though they had a ton of siblings. One of them had like an athletic scholarship, that kind of thing. But I kind of had to find my own direction. But what I think it taught me is how to relate to other people, right? Like how to be around others and really push the limit to your body and mind and spirit. There's always going to be people that are better than you out there at the things you're doing or trying to do. So you can take that one or two ways, right? You can either get pissed and let it bring you down and say, I'm not good enough, or you can let it lift you up and learn from them. And you mentioned how you like take away from all these people you interacted with and get little nuggets from them here and there. And you don't have to take them in full either, because, we only retain, what is it, like 20% or 10% of whatever we're learning or reading or whatever the case may be, right? So if you start picking up these nuggets and putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions and around those more successful people or the people that will challenge you in other ways that are actually doing the things that are hard, that are tough, and have got to a certain level, then that inspires you to want to do more, right? And it inspires you to want to be more. So let me ask you this. Tell them what you're doing now, how you got there. And I know it's from the mortgage world, but I'm sure these people have some influence. But what are you doing now and what led you to it?
Yeah. So, now getting into the corporate world, graduated, was there working for 8 years, decided during COVID that wanted to move to the beach, get to the beach house that I told you about. So decided to move down there. I asked two of my really good buddies in the mortgage industry if they wanted to come down and partner with me to open up a smaller brokerage. And, we're an online wholesale brokerage for mortgages and residential real estate in 9 states right now. So we're operating, and we're doing anything from conventional loans to jumbo loans to construction loans. So just trying to get a good footprint, man, and, help change people's lives and help them invest in real estate, as well as teach them how real estate can, give them some financial freedom if they do it the right way. I'm a big finance guy, so I'm always in tune to the market, and I love talking about it. We have a newsletter we send out that lets everybody know, what's going on, what to expect with rates. So, I've been very busy getting it all going, and it's been a fun learning experience.
Yeah, man, I'm super proud of that. And to spin off and do your own thing is extremely tough, but I think it's extremely important to a lot of people to get out of their comfort zone and do something for themselves, something that makes them happy, and actually own it or actually take that risk, because if you never try, you never know. Absolutely. You never able to tell how far you can push yourself. And, now that you've became this entrepreneur, this owner, even though you have business partners to kind of fall back on and help you at times and all that, you guys help each other. I know there's times where the struggle is super real and you're like, how do I figure this out? How do I do that? So are there any moments that stick out where it was like, man, I'm kind of stuck here. Like, how do I get through it? And what did you do with your mindset to help you get through it, or some changes you might have made to get through it?
That has absolutely been happening for anybody who owns a small business, especially in this last year. It's been extremely difficult. There's been tough financial conditions, as well as, we don't have much leadership going on as a whole. So I have just been communicating with my team that, we can only control what we can control. And the 3 things that we can control are attitude, effort, and execution. So literally, some of the 3 fundamentals. So attitude, effort, execution, everybody for, that wants to kind of dive in, and that's the 3 controllables. And that's what we've been focusing on. The controllables, trying to make more calls, make more connections, and, build the business organically, because nobody else is going to do it for us.
And that's what I loved about working with you, man, is the keeping it simple part. Yeah. Because my man doesn't use big words either. Nope. Me and him are very similar. Country background, just happy about life and happy about people and meeting people and all that. But we love trying to keep it simple for ourselves, man. We don't like to overthink things if we can help it, right? So it does take that intentional effort. It does. But that attitude, effort, execution, I remember hearing those words all the time, man. And if you really own those words, take ownership of them and actually, okay, this is what I can do, and these are my controllables, and you really think about it, sit down and think about it, you realize you can make a lot of things easier for yourself. Oh my gosh. That you don't have to ride that emotional roller coaster, and I think a lot of us, even not in sales, do that with life and the thing that comes at us. But we got to always realize, a lot of things are happening for us. It's not to us. And, the challenges that the mortgage industry has had, it had its best time ever, I'd say, for a couple of years. And then recently, some of the more difficult times ever, probably.
Yeah, immediately following.
But immediately following. So a true testament of character and who you are and what you're about. And you really got to dig in on that. And there's people that have been in the industry for 20 years that we know that are successful, that have been through these downturns.
Multiple times.
So it goes to show that it can happen. But I'm sure they make it pretty simple for themselves. What do you think?
I think so. I think, once you kind of boil it down to what causes your work to increase, and that if you can control that by either more effort and better execution, then go get it.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think you mentioned Matt Drexler, and I gave him a shout out actually today. But he's one of those guys that made it simple for you, but he would also give you those words of wisdom that you need it. Kind of like if you go to church or something, you're always going to hear that message that kind of sticks with you, or that phrase that day that sticks with you, right? So I really think that, like, keeping it simple, having those fundamentals, and thinking daily, hey, what can I accomplish? What are these easy things that I can do for myself? That leads and feeds into other things you're doing in life. So if you do have a big task you're about to take on, well, of course, it probably consumes you and consumes your life at that time, but there's still things you can do to win the day.
Yeah, the small little tasks, like listening to a podcast, going on a walk, reading a book, calling a friend and telling them you love them and you miss them, so just little things like that might not pertain to the larger task at hand, but those little things done consistently over time have a massive effect.
Yeah.
So,
and that's really where I was going with it, man. Yeah. And it's those things that are more than just work, more than money, more than just material things. It's life,
Absolutely.
It's really having these people around you is so important. Me and Clay haven't hung out in a while, but we connected like it was yesterday when we just now saw each other, because you feel that love for an individual, because you know what they're about, and you know their character, and you know how they've made you feel in the past. So holding on to these relationships is so important. Are there any other relationships you really had to like work on as you're starting the business, you're making a lot of changes, you made a move from a different city, probably had I don't know if you sold a home, but like anything about the relationships in your life, have they changed or anything as you're taking on this new journey?
Yeah, I think the relationships change constantly in everybody's life. As you grow older, your priorities change. The amount of time you allocate for different things changes. I have a ton of friends and family that I try to stay as connected to as possible because they've been with me, from the beginning. But it's also hard to keep up sometimes, and you don't talk to your friends for 6 months or a year, and then you rekindle and it does work out, and you realize this is the type of guy that I want to be hanging out with and I want to be associating with, and you stand for something that's more important than the money in the business world, and that's what that's what is the most important is family, freedom, flexibility. That's what everybody should be striving for. It shouldn't be, this competition amongst people. It should be, compete to be as happy as you can.
For sure.
And that's, the main goal.
Yeah, for sure. As you were speaking on that subject, man, I was thinking, like, there's a lot of people that stick with you. Like, man, they did some harm back in their day. They were kind of negative people or whatever, but I truly believe people can change, 100%. So I've had friends that were just like more acquaintance friends that I've gotten closer with over time as I've seen their development, their focus shift in life. So I believe people can change. So that's part of why I'm doing this, man, to make people realize that no matter where you come from, what your background is, you can take these risks and you can place that bet on yourself.
Yep.
And then amazing things happen just because you're being intentional, you're being a great person, you're being good to others, and you're doing things for others, and you're just changing that attitude around about who you are and what you're about. And that's the journey I'm seeking now, and want others like you and like the people on this show to be more involved in my life. And that's an intentional thing we tend to get away with. Sometimes we just think our friends are our friends and that's it. Now you can always level up and find new friends and new people out there. I know there's a lot of women I talk to that move to a new place and they're like, man, it's tough to meet other women. But you either want to meet like-minded individuals or people that are already in a position that you want to be in that are going to help you level up and become a better person, right? So I just think about all the experiences I've had with all these different people, and I was at a different phase of my life or they were at a different phase, but they've come to grow and just accomplish so much and do so much. And it motivates me now to be a better person, to do more for others. And I'm sure you feel the same. And with the move to a beach which is my goal in life as well, bro.
Oh, well, we can find you a spot.
All right.
I can find somebody to loan you some money. We can get you in
Absolutely, you can. Coastline, right?
That's right.
But no. So that move to the beach, man, was that a mindset thing? Was that like an always on my goal, my dream board type of thing? Or was it like I needed it for my mental health because of COVID?
Maybe a mixture of both, I think, or actually all three. So no, it did start on my dream board and my goals. Whenever I got into goal setting, and that is an intentional thing that you have to do, and I really think that everyone should write down their goals yearly, 5-year, 10-year, and check in on it every quarter or every half the year and see how you're doing. But no, that was always the plan. Me and my wife are both from the coast, so it just kind of made sense with what we wanted in our life, and we made it happen when COVID rolled around. We got trapped at home in the big city, and it became more attractive to us. So maybe we pulled the trigger earlier than what was on the plan, but it's worked out. So no, man, it's been fun though. I love it. It's beautiful down there. Nice people. Not as much traffic as Charlotte, but it's fun.
Yeah, and you said Wilmington, which is right outside of Wrightsville, Wrightsville Beach. If you guys haven't been, it's one of the top filming destinations in the country now. But it's a beautiful place. I spent a lot of time during college going there and developing a lot of friendships and relationships out there. But guys, I mean, we're lucky enough to live in Charlotte, or I live in Charlotte, which is close enough to the beach if I want to make a weekend trip, right?
Yep.
But that's the thing. He had big goals. He wasn't far from us, so he could do the weekend trips too, but he wanted to make a life there. And I think a lot of us really have to envision it and be really intentional. Like you said, write it out or reconnect with what my goals are and what they look like and actually visualize it, right? Some of the people that I know that really excelled in sales, they had their dream board, but they made it specific down to like an address or finite amounts and stuff, and really just made it happen. And when you have that internally driving you, I think it takes you even further and do that one more thing that day that you otherwise necessarily wouldn't have if you didn't have those goals in front of you, right? It'd just be another day.
Yep. And planning it too, you put your goal down and then you back out of it. So if you want a new car, how much money do I have to save to get that car? How much is that per month over this next year? And then what does that look like in the future? Like you have to plan it out, get everything right, and then execute on going and getting it. Yeah. So it's not just you snap your fingers and stuff happens. No. There's a plan that has to go behind it, and the faster you can plan and organize and execute, the faster you move on to the next task and leveling up kind of thing, like you were talking about. You just use those little small steps to level up faster.
Absolutely. What was it like? So that takes me to my next thing. So starting a business, right? What kind of vision did you have in front of you when you started the business? Because you were already doing well, kind of operating on your own as a mortgage loan officer, and already kind of at a place that's comfortable, so to speak. But you didn't have to start a business and still make good money and be successful or do whatever. So what really led you to creating some change in your life there where you wanted to take ownership in that truly and fully, right? Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things. One is I saw an opportunity in the marketplace. Since I've been in mortgage for 7 to 8 years, you start to realize, hey, there's more than just one way to skin a cat here. You don't have to work for a bank. You don't have to work for a lender. You can actually work for yourself as a broker. And now that technology is caught up to where we're at, with being a broker, I can also service loans nationwide versus just in my local town here because nobody else has a cell phone. So the one thing is the brokerage model was opening up. I'd noticed that was an area that I could take advantage of. also, I had learned a lot in my time growing, those companies, and, the experience there was able for me to kind of take that and instill it into the new company. And just the want to control my day too is the thing. I want to be able to make the decisions and not have to ask for permission, and control my own destiny per se, versus relying on somebody else to control it for me. And I really felt like that was the main few things that I was thinking about. And when I had to make the commitment to do it, it was scary, but I had a plan and I felt good about it. And it's worked out somewhat. I'm hoping it's going to keep getting better, and it's a constant process, but we're here.
Yeah, a word I'm thinking about as you're saying all this, and this has kind of been a theme amongst a lot of guests, is freedom.
Yeah. Is
that a good word to describe what you mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's what we all want, right? Is some kind of financial freedom, freedom of time, freedom of choice. And if you look at what's going on in the world today with the outside factors, the freedom of our choices and our liberties are at risk in some regard. And, that's a conversation for a different day probably, but, it's a big deal to me.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, I think that's what drives a lot of entrepreneurs to take that path.
Yeah.
Knowing that they're going to be working more and put more energy towards it. Like they know that, but they just want that freedom to do something they love and make it their own, and really try to embody what they're about in that way, and live that experience the way they want to live that experience. And I think that's great, man. I think everybody could learn from that, right? There becomes a point where you have a big decision to make. It's you keep doing the same thing and you're really good at it and you can survive, or do you want to go out, take a risk, and actually thrive and love life and love what you're doing, love what you're about, and fail forward like we talked about.
Tons of failing.
Yeah, exactly. But like, is that not more fun, and does that not stretch you more? Like that helps you grow more, right?
100%. The uncomfortable failure of failure is literally just a quicker growth spurt. And so you get over it quick and you move on to the next best thing.
Exactly.
And it's fun though. It's fun. It's been a blessing because I'm so young and you're younger too, but we're able to trickle this down onto our network, and hopefully they get something out of it, whether it's 10 seconds of something good that changes their day, or something that changes their life forever. But having an impact and trying to be that positive influence, I feel like that's really important to both me and you. Mine maybe more towards business, and yours towards your life coach and the podcast and everything you're doing, but we're doing the same thing in terms of trying to help people get better or be in a better position.
And you said it earlier when we were talking before this, make an impact, make a difference, actually help others. And that's awesome, man. I think I'm just so blessed and thankful as well, because there's people like you that came into my life, and I know it wasn't just random. I know there was something more to it. And this journey has just begun for both of us, really, when you think about it. And you mentioned we're young. You're younger than me, but you mentioned that. And what I think about is, like, no matter where you're at in life, whether you have a family, have kids, whether you're younger, you're older, whether you're trying to figure things out, like, you have an impact you can make on this world and in this life. And there's skills that people are looking for that you have, and there's a voice that you have that, like, you just have to speak up, and you just have to do it, and you got to find the things you love and get more involved with that and pursue that more. So are there any things in your life that, like, maybe you've got away from that you want more of or to do more of that you haven't thought about lately, but is something that you think would really help you personally moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always trying to implement little things into my routine to get a little bit better. And the one thing that I'm always a little behind on is the adding of more physical activity. I wish I worked out and I was more, I ran more, I did more physically. Not saying I don't do anything, but it's not a main priority of mine. Where I may listen to a podcast every day, I still should be running or doing something physical. Yeah. So certain personal development, things like that. Continuously try to read books, put good input in means you get good input out. Yeah. Right. So, whether you're listening to a book, reading a book, listening to a podcast, watching a YouTube video, whatever it is, if it's something beneficial, you're getting something out of that intrinsically that might not show itself at that point in time, but in the future, it will come out. Right. And you'll remember back to that and be like, oh, yeah, I learned about that. I heard about that,
Well, I think what we learned from previous leaders in previous workplaces was like having a block schedule so you can fit these things in. And a lot of that requires waking up earlier, doing things differently in that regard. So, my goal and intention lately has been just that, like sticking more to a block schedule routine and then start stacking things, because there are ways to make more time in your day.
Oh, yeah.
We get carried away when we get on our phones. An hour or two slips by and we've just been scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever you guys use, right? And we're like, dang, there could have been some productive stuff we were doing there, or I could have been doing something while I was watching that game. We can all say it. Yeah. It is what it is.
100%. 100%. There's a ton of time wasted on social media nowadays, and I'm as guilty as you are probably. So I totally understand that, and I agree. It's that's why the whole block schedule and creating a routine, sticking to it, is so important, because it holds you accountable, and you can hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, because I used to be the one to think that there's not any more time in the day. Yeah. But it's about creating your time, right?
Or
utilizing it properly, right? And that's the thing that I've been reading about some too, is like Atomic Habits and some of these other books that we've read. But it really shows you that there's so much you can accomplish in one day that like you have to make it a habit by consistently doing the one thing first before you start adding more on, because then it's so easy to get away from it. Because if you just do that one thing once a week, it's probably going to fade away, right? You know what I mean?
Like it take like 30 or 60 days to completely get a habit ingrained in you.
Yeah, the science says something like that, like 30-ish,
maybe even longer than that,
60-ish, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's something you take the ownership role. I'm sure has been a challenge for you in certain regards, because you wanted to free up certain things for your life, but then you realize, hey, I got to dedicate X, Y, and Z time towards these things to help grow a business, help educate myself, help get the team, and build the others up around me. So what have you had to get better at as an entrepreneur to really help excel?
Yeah, you're talking about it. Time management is huge. I mean, you're talking about it. It's plain as day. It's so I totally agree with that. You wake up, you get a good routine in the morning, whether that's brush your teeth, shower, make your bed, make dinner or make breakfast. Get out of the door at X time, do a podcast or read before X. So there's plenty of things that you can add into a schedule. It's just doing them and being consistent with them. And then once they are a consistent part of your life, you'll start to realize the benefit. But it's not until they are that consistent that you get to reap the benefit. So a lot of people give up or quit, right? And they say, I've been doing this for 15 days or 20 days or 30 days and nothing's getting better. I'm not losing weight. I'm still out of shape, or I haven't, done as well in my career or whatever. But that's just because they're looking at it as what it is right now. They're not looking at it what it's going to be in the future. And there's so much future value in the little things that, people get caught up in the temporary. So
trust in the process.
Yep.
I remember hearing those words.
Oh yeah, trust the process, baby. It's a long one, but done consistently, it can end with massive results, and that is the truth. And I've seen it happen firsthand.
Me too, man. That's why I love speaking on it. I just think we're all capable of something greater than who we are and what we are right now.
Yep.
And life's a journey, so once you get to maybe where you thought you wanted to be, there's another level for you. Mm-hmm. And with another level, another devil, something else to distract you.
Dang right. And that's a good one. I ain't heard that one, but really? I'm going to keep that one. That one's going in my toolbox.
Pretty sure I got that from, what's his name? Steve Harvey.
Oh,
Steve,
really?
Yeah, that sounds like a Steve Harvey.
It does.
Hey, but nah, man. Also, I was thinking about podcasts. I mean, hopefully people tuning in, you share this show, and hopefully it helps somebody you know. Please share it. But I had some people that I was managing. I was like, what did you consume your mind with this morning, basically, right? And they're like, yeah, podcast. I was like, all right, what podcast? When you start getting more specific, you're like learning like why they are the way they are that day. And they're like, oh, sports or news. And I'm like, oh, that's trash. Like, that's really not the stuff I was looking for when you said podcast. So for you, what are some of the podcasts you consume that might be related to work or personal life for yourself that you find helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a few of them. Personal development stuff. I really love Ed Milet, which I know you do too. Jay Shetty is also awesome. For finance, I listen to the Pompliano podcast. There's another podcast that's called the What is Money podcast. That's another great financial one. And it really, you'll get your occasional Joe Rogan in there, or something that's like a little bit entertaining, but it's not a daily driver. But those are some of the more beneficial ones that I listen to in regards to, finance, personal development, that kind of good stuff, and some a little like like murder mystery ones.
Interesting. I wouldn't have took you for the murder mystery.
Yeah. So I love a good murder mystery on a drive. My wife does too. So that's one of the reasons.
Well, that definitely helps the wife. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I mean, I love watching those shows. Mm-hmm. Those documentaries are like huge now.
Oh, yeah.
But I think everybody's wanting to learn the science behind people and the way they think and how they are and why they are the way they are and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that's a more like dramatic scale of everything, obviously. But like when you think about it from the everyday real life of who you interact with, like, are you really thinking about like how they're impacting your life, how they're causing you to change or creating change within you? Like emotionally, your state of mind or your state of being. Like, do you feel certain ways when you're around certain people? A lot of us don't like take the time to become aware of that and think about it that way. So we're always seeking like that psychological impact of, what are others thinking and how did they get there and why are they the way they are? And I think a lot of us tend to worry instead of help develop from it, right? They worry about what people might think or what it looks like if they were to try that, or they're fresh and new to it, so they're going to look dumb doing it. Like they think maybe too much about that when realistically it's just, what can I learn from this person that seems to be somebody who's motivating, that's impacting or influencing others, all right? You need to have those takeaways. Or
what are they doing different than what I'm doing? If their results are different than mine, what are they doing that's getting the different results? And that's kind of the way that I looked at work early on was, if I can take little pieces of these guys' game and emulate it in my game, I could create my own thing and, still have some of that benefit.
Yeah.
But I think that's
I've been seeing a lot of posts lately about how people are jealous of other people's success or like, how did they get there type of attitude about it. But no, you need to flip that perspective of what can I learn from this person? What makes them great in certain areas and take that and let that drive home to be like, okay, that's attainable for me.
Yeah.
This is something I can take from that. Right. So that's very important to me. That's why I do a lot of the podcast, personal development stuff myself. I just think you can always grow. You can always stretch yourself. You can always learn from others, man. And I think everybody comes into your life for a reason, and you can learn from that experience. You can learn from that relationship. You can learn from just the interaction you have with somebody, even if it's one day you meet them and that's it. There's so much you can learn about that human interaction. And we need to not take that for granted. More people need to go up to more people instead of looking at their phone and putting their head down every day. Like, be happy about like that human connection, man. Like we definitely got away from that during COVID, and a lot of people were distraught and like facing tough realities in their life and realizing that they felt the need to be around other people and all that. Well, I think some of that's true, but you really got to be in tune with yourself. So learning more about yourself through learning about others is important, but you really got to ask yourself some different questions. What are some things in your growth journey that you had to ask yourself and change about who you are? And we might have spoke on some today, so maybe give me a new one. But what are some things that really made an impact of who I am, what I'm about, or what I needed to become a better person?
I think the big question you got to ask yourself is, how do I want to be treated, and then go out there and treat people the same way that you want to be treated. Really, I think it comes down to that. Everybody wants respect. Everybody, is in a different phase of their life, but that doesn't mean they deserve less respect. So I think it goes back to that. Treat people the way you want to be treated. I'm trying to think of another big thing that that I've learned along the way. Maybe I went through. Managing people's different personalities is difficult sometimes because people value different things. Somebody might value their time, or this person might value their lunch schedule or whatever. So it's like everybody has different values in their life, or value their book club they're in, or whatever it is, but everybody values something different. So as a leader, you have to respect that and and then understand it, and then come up with a solution or a relationship that works for the both of you. But it's all about respect, I think. I
remember having a job where we were timed on our lunches.
Oh my god,
30-minute lunches majority of the time, and people were pissed, right?
Oh my god.
But we learned to operate in that environment, but it's something where you got to question the man, you got to question the higher ups at times. Like, is this healthy for me? Is this right for me? Is this going to help me be more effective and a better employee or a better person in what you're doing? So sometimes you got to ask yourself, is this relationship, or is this thing I'm doing in my life, is it best for me? And there's plenty of moments I can name, so I'm surprised you didn't name some more.
Oh, I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's more moments, and in particular, like instances. I'm just trying to think of the broader spectrum of
you want to appeal to more of the masses here.
It's something that everybody's felt like. I don't want to tell them, don't work in a call center, something like that.
You learn a lot from a call center.
You do. You talk to a lot of people, and we both got a lot of experience that way. So that's why I'm not going to say that. You get experience from every different stage, but it all comes back to, when you're working with people, it's respecting them and respecting their values. And, if you want a relationship with them, you got to put in the effort.
Yeah. And when you said, think about how you want to be treated, and that helps you treat others better. I mean, that's a fundamental, like, golden rule right there, man. I think that's so true, man. And I noticed that within my parents at an early age. We would travel to places like the Caribbean, like the Bahamas or Jamaica or wherever, and these places would be like poverty stricken, right? Like outside of the resort, it's real dark and heavy out there, and it's not a lot of nice things to look at other than the beach that might be a mile away or 100 yards away. So what that made me realize is that my parents are still treating these people like the other people they meet wherever in life, right? And that respect for others is so key. And sometimes it's easy for us to even get away from that simple golden rule. It's like, you're no better than the next person. They're living a life too with a ton of challenges, going through a lot of stuff as well. And maybe you being intentional about how you treat them is going to help change their life that day, that week, whatever. But like, you really don't know. But I've heard so many stories where somebody just took a moment of their time to acknowledge that person, and it made all the difference in the world for them. And I can think about that with like inspirational people and celebrities I've met, and they were nice enough to take the time to just chat just for that moment. And I mean, that's always going to stick with me. I was fanboying out for some of them, but I'm talking about like leaders too, former CEOs or people that you know, big names, right? Because I work for a technology company that would have big wigs that are company trips and stuff, and just, you know, to be around those people, to see how they really interact, it goes to show no matter your success, you're not better than anyone. You need to take that time because somebody will get something out of it, right? Yeah. And I think you do a really good job of that. It's just making people feel warm, feel good, feel easy to talk to with and whatnot. So that's a skill that I think a lot of us can work on, but also be intentional about and be aware about. But I think you got that one down, my friend.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. I try my best not to make too many people mad. You know?
Yeah, for sure, bro. So. I mean, what's Colt? Your brother?
My brother Cole, yeah.
Yeah. When y'all talk junk to each other, I'm like, do y'all really like each other? You know, when I've heard y'all.
I think when it's your brother, the more junk you talk, the more you love him, right?
Yeah.
So you know, I give him a hard time because I really love him a lot.
Yeah, for sure. These guys, man, you guys are so competitive with each other, and that brings a point too. A lot of us don't have these brothers like close to our age, pushing us, helping us, and whatnot. So think about it from if you didn't have those brothers, right? And put yourself in a place where, you know, I had my parents, but I didn't have those brothers around me truly challenging me.
Your experience would have been different than mine.
No. 100%. So for you though, like, is there something like unique about that experience with them,
that relationship,
that you can share that maybe others can hone in on and be like, hey, this is something maybe I can apply in my life even though I don't have any brothers or siblings or whatever.
Well, anybody, I guess, can be your brother. It depends on how you look at it, right?
There you go.
So,
amen.
Yeah, right.
Amen.
But I think the relationship with my brother is awesome because, you know, it's one of those things where you can talk to your best friend and they understand your circumstance from day one and how your emotional journey has been and your spiritual, psychological journey. So it's much easier for your sibling or someone, you know, in that neck of the woods to relate and sympathize with anything that you're going through. So I've been very fortunate that I can always call, talk, you know, discuss anything with him, and he's willing to listen to me. And I think that's the biggest thing that, you know, some other people that maybe don't have siblings growing up miss out on, is just that constant connection of someone who understands what they're going through and can relate.
Yeah, and I think we can do that with our close friends or even our family. I actually had a conversation with one of my clients earlier, and I was like, how often do you chat with your mom?
Yeah.
Like, put yourself in her shoes. Like, if you were to actually reach out more often than once a week or once every 2 weeks, like, don't you think that would make an impact in her life and really change things? Because I think listening is such an easy thing to do, but we sometimes just don't take the time to apply that to help our relationships in our life and the ones that matter, more importantly, right? Sometimes we just go surface level with it and don't get beyond that, and somebody could really use you at that moment. And I think that's important, man. But that's really why I was asking the question, man.
Well, I think what you're just saying there, being intentional with the conversation that you have, so it's not surface level, and that's a good point. And I've been trying to instill more in my life, is being more intentional, and and the conversations that I'm having, going deeper, learning more about what they like, what they don't like, what makes them tick, and what makes them happy. And figuring out how is our relationship going to be, you know, how can we improve, how can it go to the next level with this person if you're willing to spend the time with them, you know, whether it's your mom, your best friend, someone you met at the gym yesterday.
Yeah.
So. And
what do you say to those that think that is a ton of work for them to do? Like, a lot of people just don't like it because it's out of their comfort zone and they want to keep things surface level. What do you think causes that, or what do you think that is?
Fear.
Right.
You know, I think fear creeps in, and doubt. I think doubt has killed more dreams than anything. Doubt is the biggest dream killer out there, and people doubt themselves, doubt their abilities, doubt what they can do. And I am here to tell everybody that, you know, that you can do it, and you can go on YouTube, you can pick up a book, you can start reading, you can start searching, and you can decide what you want to do, and you can map it out and plan it out and execute on it. And you're a great example of that too. But we're both here to tell everybody out there that, it starts with a plan. Get rid of the doubt, get rid of the fear, and start with step 1, and then worry about step 2. Don't worry about step 100.
Yeah, and I think most people's stories offer inspiration, and a lot of those people that have that fear, they're not willing to share their story. They might not think it's important enough, or they've done too many things that are risque or not great for humanity, right? But it's okay. So you can be a different person. You can change. You can make a full, 180 or whatever in life to go from where you went to who you want to become and where you're going, right? So I see that with so many people. Clay, you taking the risk yourself. And I think a lot of us need to just challenge ourselves in that way, is find out more about who you are. And then in return, that'll help others, and you'll find that uniqueness within you and that greatness within you. And sometimes you need a coach to help you get there.
As many people as it takes. Sometimes it takes a village.
Or a village, yeah. And, Clay, as a manager, as an owner, that's something that I think is important, man. So that's awesome that you're seeking more of that these days, too, because I think that is so important. I think that's what helped me change my life a good bit, is having those people around you that genuinely care and want to find out more about you and want to be there to listen and help your development, because everything isn't easy. Yes, you can do your own research and your own stuff, but you really got to dig deep into who you are as well and be receptive to what those people are trying to coach you on and help you with, and realize that you might have a different way of learning or a different way to gauge that feedback and take it for what it's worth. So, just be vocal on that, share your story. That's going to be huge. That's going to be pretty much the theme of this podcast, man, because I want people to know that it's possible for anybody out there to really accomplish and be something.
Absolutely.
And it can be so simple, it can be so small, or it can be so large, right? It's what you make of it, and it's where you put it, right? You put the bar where you want to put the bar.
Absolutely.
That's the great thing about it.
You're setting a good example too, so people know that it is possible. Anybody can do this. Take the information that's readily at your fingertips with your cell phone and search what it is you want to become, and then backtrack from there and, create the life that you want to live. So I'll always keep pushing that, and I know you will too. So Absolutely. It gets me really hype and gets me excited.
Yeah, man, I feel that inside as well, man, as I speak about it, because I'm so thankful to see so many people on that journey at different stages in their life, and know that there's so much more for a lot of people out there. And some of the guests I'm going to have on here, I think they're truly inspiring people, that some of them may seem like they're more intelligent, but they didn't just start there, right? They had to work at it just like anybody else. And that's the thing. And then you realize once you start being more and more intentional, there's resources out there that'll help you, or people that'll help you along your journey. Once you say it out loud and put it in the atmosphere and put it out there.
100%.
So I think you've definitely been part of that journey, man, yourself. And I think it's so important to learn from people like you. So I appreciate you coming on today. Super thankful for that. And just can't wait to see the rest of this journey, man, and share these experiences with you. And you definitely got to save me a spot in one of those rooms at the beach house, bro.
I got you.
All right.
Anytime.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, and likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
And I'll take the dog out, whatever you need. All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
all right.
So you can work. I'll hang out with the dog, and
you reduced your charge there.
All right. There we go. Sweet. We're good then.
But thanks for having me on here. I really appreciate it. Likewise, I'm learning a ton from you and a lot of the good content you're putting out. So I appreciate it. And,
appreciate that, bro.
Keep getting after it. And
appreciate that.
We'll do this again in the future.
And tell everybody how they can connect with you or your company, or look y'all up, or maybe they're seeking mortgage advice from somebody who knows their stuff. Where do they go to find you?
Yeah, anywhere on social media. You can go to Facebook, Coastline Capital Mortgage. You can go online, coastlinecapitalmortgage.com. You can find me, Clay Boroughs, on Instagram, clay.boroughs_CCM. Keep up with us there. And also, You can fill out an application online or get a quote online. So anywhere you can reach me, you can find me. Clay Boroughs, Real Estate. Take a look.
Absolutely, man. Love you, brother. Thanks for doing this, man.
I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Your work shouldn't feel like work if you really love it. If you set and you know your worth, then think if it's worth it. But I do count my blessings first, so you know I'm grateful every night. But watch me, baby, I'ma take it there. Tell ya I'ma stay the path. Tell ya I've been chasing all these dreams, I'm getting very close. Here we go.